Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 7 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choip. Hope that's okay with you guys. And I hope you are all well and enjoyed that last interview with Sean Sherrod. It was pretty epic, to say the least. This week's episode is a little bit more concise than last week's, but there's a ton of great, truly inspirational stuff packed into it. So, Brian L. Tan, BLT, is a film director and also the co-founder of Rappel, WRAPAL, a company that is revolutionizing the location scouting process in the entertainment industry and beyond. It consists of a free, user-driven community that connects filmmakers and photographers that need locations with property owners who are willing to rent out their spaces. Brian is a very charismatic, driven man who has truly been inspired by his friend and mentor, entrepreneur Brad Hall, who founded the very successful website entertainmentcareers.net. And that's who we talk about today. That's who Brian talks about today. This is truly an inspiring episode, and Brian passes along to us much of the wisdom that Brad has passed along to him. So I'm grateful for that, and you guys should be too. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Brian L. Tan. Well, Brian, it's good to see you today. BLT, how you doing?
Living the dream, hoping it doesn't become a nightmare. That's kind of like my motto when it comes to the entertainment and technology world. I'm happy to be here.
Has it often become nightmares for you over the years? Have you experienced a lot of nightmares?
Oh, definitely. Experiencing the nightmares is kind of like the modus operandi. It's kind of like the given at this point, but then you enjoy the lows that much more because you know the highs are going to be that much better. So it's kind of about trying to stay even keeled in between.
That's good. That's good advice. I try to adhere to that myself. I appreciate you taking the time for sure today.
Happy to be here.
So tell me about a little bit about your journey here and how you ended up with Rappel and what else you're working on in Los Angeles, and give me your life story in 30 seconds. No,
the elevator pitch.
It doesn't have to be 30 seconds.
Well, the elevator story of my life kind of starts off around the world. When people ask where I'm from, I answer I grew up in an airplane. Spent the first 16, 17 years of my life living around the world, different countries, different continents. Then when I came back to LA, I went to UCLA, started UCLA's first and I think only film and photography club, which was my first spark of entrepreneurship and kind of this kind of intersection between entertainment and technology. So start off with that, ended up working at DreamWorks, Paramount, Digital Domain for a little bit, worked on Tron, X-Men, Girl with Dragon Tattoo, all the studio household names.
Quite a resume right there. But I want to almost go back.
Sure.
Go way back, because you said you grew up on an airplane and on different continents.
Yeah. I literally flew before I could walk. So...
You're a pilot? What does that
mean? No.
Exactly?
I was a baby, obviously, but my parents brought me on a plane before I could even I had even learned how to walk.
Oh, because they were traveling
my parents traveled a lot, and they kind of took me along with them for the journey, and that's why I love traveling so much. To me, being on the move is almost as comforting as being stationary. So for me, it's like kind of like my natural state to always be on the go.
You travel a lot these days?
Yeah, I'm at about... I set a goal for myself to get to 100 countries, and I'm at 95 right now. I'm about 5 away. This summer, hopefully, I'll be completing the remaining 5, and I'll be a centurion traveler, I guess, 100.
Do you have the number 100 planned out, what country it's going to be? Is it a specific choice?
No,
reason?
I love Europe. I know it's such a cliche, but I love going to Europe every summer. And so the remaining 5 are going to be the last 5 countries in Europe I haven't been to yet. So it's going to be hopefully Moldova, Bosnia, Liechtenstein, San Marino, and Monaco. Those are the last 5 countries. And then I would have visited every other country in Europe.
Cool,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so that's my hobby and my addiction, and where all my money goes to travel. The wanderlust.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love to travel. I try to travel, but I don't have quite the passion for it that you have.
Well, you take your audiences to a different place with your podcast.
Yeah,
so,
we'll go with that.
That's one way. That's one way to do it. You travel audibly.
Gotcha. So we're here today to talk about a mentor of yours.
Sure.
Who is that mentor?
Well, to go back to it, basically after working at the studio system, I ended up starting Rappel because finding locations was always the worst part of the process. And as I was directing, I was working on things like Project Greenlight. I always found that location scouting was like the worst part of the process.
For films and television, for everyone out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even just films and television. It's also things like web series, commercials, music videos. Everything was just such a pain. Finding a location was like one of the worst parts of the process. And so One of the people that's been instrumental in helping me when I started, the Airbnb of film locations was Brad Hall. Brad was also a UCLA graduate like myself, and he started entertainmentcareers.net way back in the day.
Yeah, of course I'm familiar with this site.
Yeah, and
most people are who work in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
In entertainment careers.
Right. Most people that have had a job in entertainment owe their start to Brad Hall. And he was one of the guys who saw the writing on the wall that, sending in resumes via fax or by mail was just archaic. And so he started this company that was the first ever to digitize sending a resume in or a cover letter in online, which to us is such a given nowadays, but back then was purely revolutionary. And so he's been an amazing mentor of mine, and without him, honestly, I probably wouldn't be here today.
That's amazing. Did you go to UCLA at the same time as him? How did you get connected with him?
No, I like to joke that Brad was at an upperclassman when I went there, but I think
he's a little bit older than,
well,
I forget how old.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but
whether it's a male or female that we're talking about.
No. He's
don't talk about people's ages in Los Angeles.
He is very young at heart. Honestly, he just did a triathlon. He did the Ironman triathlon for charity, and he can probably kick my butt any day. No, I'm not going to mess with that guy. Yeah, he's probably fitter than people like a quarter of his age, honestly. But no, so Brad, obviously went to UCLA, let's just say in the 90s and kind of came of age back then. And so, when he started his company in the late 90s, it was the natural progression of I guess the way the industry was going to get digitized. And so his advice and his counsel has been very invaluable to us.
So you met him just through a UCLA function or an organization or something?
Yeah, it was actually through a mutual friend. My mutual friend, Kevin Longa.
That world.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
UCLA world.
A friend of mine, Kevin Longa, is a few years my junior. He's also a filmmaker / entrepreneur. Actually introduced us, I think, via LinkedIn or something. And from there, that's how we met and kind of went for a poke in Santa Monica and kind of hit it off all these years later.
So you guys just kind of became friends, and he kind of became just someone who just advised you, or was it more of a business type relationship that you guys had, or did it become a business relationship?
No, it was very organic. I didn't go in there being like, oh, I need a mentor. I need someone to give me tutelage on what to do. But I think we both share a very similar outlook on business, which is that it's not all about the bottom line. It's not all about trying to make money at all costs. It's, for us, we built a site by filmmakers for filmmakers in the same way that Brad made an entertainment platform for people that are in entertainment. And being from entertainment himself, he was the natural leader of the market for that. And so our philosophy of doing business is helping the community first, and the rest of the stuff that keeps the lights on and the doors open is kind of what follows. And so we're a more, service and community oriented style of doing business. And I believe that's the best way that you should run an organization. It's not all about making a profit at all costs. It needs to be about the people that you're serving, and they'll reward you if they feel like it's necessary and justified.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are both doing, pursuing ventures and have pursued ventures that are needed and that people want and that are going to lead to and have led to rewards for you guys. Thank you. Sure. And that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing that you guys met that organically and just hit it off kind of in a friend way. Because for some reason, before when we previously discussed, that we're going to be talking about Brad Hall, I pictured like you were in some sort of mentorship program and it was like a formal thing, and then you got, and he would, I don't know, I pictured a more formal, like academic or
no
professional setting or something like that.
No, not at all. It's I would say I would have loved to have gone through one of those. I mean, honestly, there's now startup and entrepreneurship majors at UCLA and a lot of other schools across the country that we didn't have back at UCLA at the time. I mean, I graduated in like 2009. This was like entrepreneurship and like startups were barely a thing. Facebook was maybe like 2 years old then.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast technology and the education that needs to be teaching this is also kind of
so I never really had a mentorship program, and I believe actually in life that some of the best people that have advised me and given me counsel have been people I've met, and we just kind of share a strong similar outlook. It's a lot like dating. It's all about your values. As long as you share similar values, you can look to someone who is in the same industry and who has succeeded at a certain level that you aspire to be and admire. but did it on the terms that they were setting. Another mentor of mine, also from UCLA, is Willard Tressel. He also advises my directing career, and he was someone that I saw was very successful, very creative, someone that made it in the industry. He's the general manager of DirecTV Latin America, and he made it on his own terms. There was no backstabbing. There was no cutthroat business. There's no shady side stuff.
I
hustle.
admire that so much, and that makes me happy to hear, because I think people have, a lot of people have a negative outlook of the business world and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And
you have to stay true to yourself.
Yeah. Everyone assumes to be successful, you have to be an asshole, and that's.
Sometimes
pick and choose.
Yeah, that's why I have very few mentors. I like to think that the mentors I do choose are the minority or the rare exception that don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying everyone is nice, but some people are.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of it's brought up by my mom. My mom was always someone that's like, she knew I was very driven. She would always tell me like, there's no point being successful if you have to sell your soul, and that was something I took to heart. There's no point being the richest, most powerful man in the world if at the end of the day you can't sleep at night because you felt like you've sold out. Or
I was going to say, look at yourself in the mirror in the morning.
Right.
You went with sleep at night.
Exactly.
That's good stuff. That's interesting. What about some of the other maybe earlier conversations you had when you guys first met? Because you talked about similar values. You talked about not all being about profit, about serving community. What other kind of tidbits or
Sure.
about life or
Absolutely.
business, professional stuff that you kind of caught up,
Well, we both
early
we both share similar passions. I think when you're looking for a mentor, it helps that you can talk about more than just business,
things
right?
in common.
Right, absolutely. We both share this love of travel. He travels almost as much as me, easily. 3-4 months out of the year, he's on a plane somewhere. We both appreciate things like that. We both also share the same values in food. We like eating the same food. So it's great to be able to talk about life and the strange mystery that it all is beyond just talking about business. Because the last thing a mentor wants to do, or you would want to do, is just have a conversation about business and not have that secondary holistic aspects to it. It's very one-dimensional that way.
It's boring.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be like halfway through a 2-hour lunch and be like, oh shit, what do we talk about? We're only talking about business. And so for me, I like
balance.
Yeah, it's balance, and it's good to hang out with people who have, more to offer you than just advice for your business. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking at these mentors, not just as business mentors, but also lifestyle mentors. I mean, Brad Hall, Willard Tressel, these are the kind of guys I want to be in 30 years that people go like, oh, wow, look at BLT. He's super successful, but he didn't do it in a bad way. Like he made it on his own terms. Maybe it took him a little longer, but I'd like to say and have people view me with the same respect that they view Brad and Willard.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations with people about thinking about what other people think about you. And I think about that too. Like, I want people to think 20, 30, 40 years, oh, that guy was a good dude and he did it, his profession and his life on his term. That's important to me too. But at the same time, you can't be worried, I feel like, too much about what
of course, absolutely.
think of you either.
You have to do.
How do you strike that balance?
That's a very good question. In fact, this year, I've been reading this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. I don't know if you can cuss or anything on your podcast, but it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. You can bleep that later.
I think I already cursed several times.
So you can bleep that later if you want, but it's by Mark Mason, and it's a book about essentially valuing the one or two things in life that you need to care about and let everything else be water under the bridge. And so in that regard, I think that it's good to not care about your external validation and people giving you that recognition, because that's the world of form, right? It's success, it's the trappings of power and money and all that stuff that Los Angeles values. But so for me, I think it's good to draw a line between what you care about and what you don't, and the vast majority of things you don't care about, let it slide. So I think it's important that you want to be a good person, not just for the image associated with it, but also because it's inherently the right thing to do, and that you care about it, not just because you want people to view you or perceive you a certain way. I think I brought up that example just as kind of like an anecdotal thing. I know it may sound contradictory, but you need to do it because it's part of who you are.
Yeah. No, I think it comes back to that, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and go to sleep at night. Because if you can do that, there's a good chance that people, at the end of the day, the majority of people that you come across in your life will think highly of you, unless you're a sociopath.
Sure.
And you wake up in the morning, you feel good about yourself, but you're
I know a few of those, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and what about so you guys developed a relationship, you went for poke. He
Yeah.
gave you some good advice. How how did your relationship like develop from there, and what kind of happened? Maybe with
Gosh.
Rapple or
Yeah,
where did things
it's hard to
progress from there?
describe. It's not like one of those things where it was very linear. It was more just like,
Life never is.
yeah, you're absolutely right. It was just very organic. Like I said, I think it just kind of grew from there. I think we went for poke, and then he was like, "Oh, keep in touch. Email me if you have any questions." And I held him to his word, and I emailed him with more questions. And now we would, just hang out, be like, "Hey, you want to grab a coffee?" Even if I didn't really have anything like important to discuss per se, I would, I enjoy hanging out with him. I enjoy his company beyond just like, oh, I need your,
Something
input.
beyond needing something, and that's why he probably likes you, and
right.
Because people don't want to feel like they're just being used.
Absolutely.
or just being needed for one specific thing.
I would still be friends with him if the Rapple went away. I mean, that's the kind of quality of friendship you're looking for. It's not transactional. A lot of people in Los Angeles view relationships as transactional. They view relationships as, oh, what can I get from being friends with him or her? And therefore, how much time do I have to put in in order to be considered a quote unquote friend?
Yeah.
And I can extract favors later. For me, I don't approach it that way. If I like hanging out with someone, it's because I like hanging out with them. And if I don't like hanging out with someone, I won't make any effort whatsoever. So in Brad's case, yeah, I think the business stuff was honestly secondary to a very good, genuine friendship.
That's awesome. That's cool. And what about, so in terms of Rapple, what maybe things that Brad has, advised you on, or things that you saw him doing, how, are there any specific examples that you could point to while you're, in the midst of running Rapple?
Absolutely.
That come into your day-to-day activities?
Absolutely. There are a lot of parallels, in the same way that Brad started the first ever internet portal that connected people that wanted jobs to people that had jobs or were offering careers. Us too at Rapple, we essentially connect people with locations to people that need locations. And so there were a lot of similar paths that he had already gone through. A major way in which he influenced me was when it came to fundraising. Every startup is always doing like fundraising all the time. They're going from round to round to round. You've heard the story of someone raising their Series A, their Series B, their Series C, and it becomes this kind of like chasing your own tail because you just get cash flow injections every time. This is what caused the dot-com boom back in the day. And so in our case, I looked to Brad to emulate a sustainable form of business, which is not taking on external investment and instead reinvesting money you make into the business. And so that's something very rare in the startup world. A lot of times it's all about growth, and kind of like looking for expansion at any cost. And so Brad was very much against that because he grew his business organically. And I tried to follow his same footsteps as well.
Which was not reinvesting?
No, not taking external investment, not taking any VC money, not taking any private equity money, and instead
using your own earnings to reinvest in the business.
Exactly, and not trying to grow too big too quickly, because that's when your overhead increases. That's when costs blossom, and you become this like reverse pyramid where your foundation isn't strong enough, and you end up toppling.
Makes sense. No, so it sounds like he helped you not just from like, life advice or whatever and stuff about that, but just also structurally, like running your business and some things that you just can directly emulate. Like,
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Copy what works.
Absolutely.
And what applies to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think he has a big focus on nonprofit work as well. He helps out a lot of charities. He just did his Ironman triathlon for the Cancer Foundation, or the Cure for Cancer. And, that's something very admirable, because I think if I were ever to get to his level one day, I would likely like to do the same and give back to the community. And
only if you get to that level, though. You're not going to help
well, if I'm broke and homeless, I don't have any money to give people, but
everyone always has something to give. Just
maybe not, but yeah, regardless of what level I end up in,
I know
maybe
you would like to get more involved in
philanthropy. Absolutely,
line for sure,
100%.
Very cool. And what about where's Rapple at now, as far as what's new, how's it going, what's coming down the line?
Sure. So one of the other things we're doing this year is redeveloping. We're revamping the site a lot and improving the user experience and user interface, which is UI UX, and hopefully growing and expanding into new territories as well. We made a big expansion to New York last year, and so now we have a lot of different properties in New York as well, a few hundred as well.
What cities are you in right now?
California.
State.
The whole state. And New York. And hopefully we're hoping to grow beyond that to other areas as well.
Where?
We're still
US?
doing our market research. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely going to be domestic and national.
Cool.
But hopefully we'll be able to grow and be able to provide our services for filmmakers in more than just the coastal cities.
Do you have, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but what about like, do you have even bigger dreams and goals global? What about outer space?
Well, when Elon gets to Mars, hopefully he'll list a location on with us.
That's
But
right.
as of right now, I think national is what we're most concerned about. But eventually, yeah, maybe we'll be able to go global and
Cool.
see how it goes.
And what else are you working on these days?
I'm like everyone in Los Angeles. It's such a cliche at this moment, but I am a director, and I'm planning on doing a lot more spec commercials and things like that this year, as well as short films. I used to be so, I'm going to call it arrogant, but I used to be so strong-willed about doing stuff on spec because I used to hate it. I used to be like, oh man, I got to spend my own money to make a project.
Yeah.
For example, we just shot this Lenovo commercial last month.
I have a Lenovo, by the way.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Well, we did one for them. You'll be able to see it online soon. We did an athletics commercial, and we're potentially doing a commercial in Indonesia next month
For the
as well.
Oakland Athletics?
No, it's just an athletics company
Okay.
that we're doing a commercial for. So all these projects have been paid, but I want to really push the creative envelope, and that
Sure.
involves doing uncommissioned spec work. And so for me, I've been very much against that, but I think this is the year where I decide to what I call create shamelessly, which is essentially creating projects that enhance my creative vision and allow me to practice my art as a director without the interference of clients. That way it'll push the envelope a lot more, and hopefully it'll be very innovative and creative, and that way people will recognize that and hire me for
on
more
your
work.
own terms.
So, exactly, on my own terms. So we'll see.
Bring it all back.
On my own terms, on my own money, which is the part I'm not too happy about. But I think that's the only way that you can grow as a director, which is doing your own stuff for creative outlet on the
You
side.
got to keep
and,
working.
yeah.
We're all, you know.
Yeah,
keep it
creativity
at
is
it.
a muscle. You know, you got to use it or you lose it.
I think so. I think so too. And what about anything else you want to promote? What about Rappel, the website? How can people contact you?
Sure. It's very simple. A lot of people can't pronounce Rappel. It's so weird. People go like Rappel. It's actually just WRAPAL. And the reason why we came with that is it's called Rappel Location. Like, that's a wrap, you know? So it's just WRAPAL.com. You can follow us on social media. There's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, of course. And personally, I can be found at BL Tavo. That's BLTTAVO, like BLT avocado with 2 T's. And I'm on all your usual social media flavors, just like BLTs. They come in many different flavors.
Sweet. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And it was very interesting and informative to learn about this dude, Mr. Brad Hall. Very inspiring stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, and I should give him a plug too. I guess go check out entertainmentcareers.net as well. I was not paid to endorse or promote him in any way, shape, or form. I think he's just that awesome, and his site is as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity of being here. It's been a real pleasure, and hope to see you again soon.
You got it, man. Talk soon.
Sounds good. Cheers.
So there you have it. My interview with Brian L. Tan, BLT, about the founder of entertainmentcareers.net, Brad Hall. Brian was such a pleasure to talk to, and he's for sure a busy dude, so I really appreciate him taking the time. And of course, you can follow this show, People We Love, on Instagram and Twitter. Just look for the red logo with the white letters, People We Love, and there's a Facebook page as well. And of course, the show is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, who the hell knows where else. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave a positive iTunes review. I greatly appreciate that. And that's about all I got for today, so take care, y'all. Talk soon.